Alright, welcome to part 2 of week 2. This is where we left in the last part, and today we are going to add all the remaining tiles here, and we'll also implement URL launcher. Okay, so let's get started. So actually before we start, it's a good time for us to organize our code better. So what I'm going to do is I'll cut this class and I'll create a new file inside of the lib folder, and I'll call it the homepage dot. I'll import the material dot file and I'll paste this here. Okay, and here we'll import the file. Okay, you can either press Ctrl dot or you can click on this bulb. Okay, so either this way or you can just press Ctrl dot and import it. Okay, now let's actually start working on the tiles. So this is how we want the tiles to look. There are many ways you can do this again, but what we are actually going to do is by using a list tile, something called as the list tile widget. Let's actually go to flutter.dev and read a bit about the list tile widget first. Okay, if you want, you can just watch this video. These are really helpful. So what's a list tile? A list tile is a single fixed height row that typically contains some text as well as some leading or trailing icon. So this is exactly what we want, right? See, this is what we want. We want a row of widgets in which we want some text and we want a leading icon here. Okay, so after this divider, remember this divider right here, after this, below this, we want to add the list tile widgets. I'm going to say list tile like that, and now again you can check all the properties it has. It's got a leading property, it's got a title property, it's got a subtitle, trailing, and all of these properties. So let's add the title first. Okay, I'm going to say title, and I'm going to copy my title from here. Title is going to be a text widget. Inside of it, I'm going to paste this, and let's save this much first. Alright, this is what it looks like. Now when I look at the design file, this is how we want it to look. We want a white color with some decoration applied to it. It's got 5 pixels of border radius. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this list tile with a container, and okay, now I'm going to give it a decoration property, give it a box decoration, and I'm going to say border radius dot circular. So these are all the options we have. We're going to select circular and 5 pixels like so, and I'm also going to give it a color of colors dot white. Okay, const, we'll have to remove this. Let's just cut this from here, and I'll hold the Alt key and let's add const, and then I'll paste the const like that. And okay, now let's save and see. Okay, exactly what we wanted, right? Now let's style this text a little bit. Okay, so this is Poppins semi-bold 18 pixels, and this is the color that we want. So I'm going to say style, text style, now let's give it a font family. This is going to be Poppins semi-bold. Font size 18 and font color, this is going to be alright. Let's save this. Oh, so actually we've not added this font yet. Let's do that first. So now that you know how to add fonts, I'll leave this part up to you. Take it as an assignment and add the Poppins semi-bold font. Okay, for those of you who do not remember how we added fonts in the last video, I'll just give you a little bit of hint. You will add the file, the TTF file here inside the fonts folder, then you'll go to the pubspec.yaml file, and then you can simply copy this one and then paste it here. But remember, the indentations are really important, so pay attention to those, and then just rename these, rename the font, and it should match exactly with what it's here, okay, with the TTF file, otherwise it won't work. And after that, after you've done that, you'll save the pubspec.yaml file and then you'll hit refresh. And whenever you add a new asset, you might actually want to hot restart or actually cold restart it. Alright, so I've cold restarted my app, and now you can see the fonts are styled. Now in the design, you see that these styles are not sticking to the end of the screen, but in our version of it, it is. So there are many ways again you can do this. Either you can add a margin property to this list style, this container, or instead you can add a padding to this container, the blue one. Okay, I'll rather give this container a padding instead of giving this a margin. Okay, and the thing about padding and margin is that margin is applied outside of the widget and padding is applied inside of it. So let's say I added okay, let's actually demonstrate it to help explain better. I'll add a margin here, margin, this is again going to be edge insets, and let's say all, and I'll say 20. Okay, okay, so this happened. So you see that the margin was applied outside of this container, and let's say if I apply a padding here, I'll comment this part out, I'll apply the same amount of padding this time, and you see the difference. this is now applied inside of this container, and therefore the size of this container has increased, because now it is padding this text 20 pixels on all sides of this text, which is why you see this being expanded. Okay, so this is not what we are going to do. Remember this container, the big one with the gradient, this is where we are going to add the padding. And let's actually get the values. It is 32 pixels. So I'm going to say edge insets dot symmetric, and I'm going to give it the horizontal padding of 32 pixels and add a const here. Okay, so this is what we wanted, and now the only thing left in this style is the icon here. Okay, so we are going to add the leading property of this list style, and this accepts a widget, and what we are going to do is we are going to pass an icon here. Let's read more about the icon class. A graphical icon widget drawn with a glyph from a font described in icon data, such as materials, predefined icon data in icons. Okay, so if you go over to icons, you can actually have a look at all the icons, all the material icons, where you can directly access in Flutter. Okay, so this is a long list of icons. Okay, if you want, you can see all of them. Otherwise, let's just get back to the code. Okay, so what I'm going to say is an icon, and this is going to be an icon data, and we're going to say icons dot. Now I want the icon of a male, so I'm going to type male. This is what I want. So and now I want to give this a color, so I'll say color, and let's get the color. It's actually this color, and I'll say color and hit refresh. Okay, now we've got this nice icon here, and I am going to create one more tile, and then the remaining ones will be an assignment for you. You'll do them yourself. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll just copy this container. We're not going to write everything once again. We'll just copy paste it, and we'll change the values. Okay, so now we've got LinkedIn. I'll copy this and I'll replace this. Now for these styles, we want these icons, LinkedIn, Twitter and GitHub, but you will not find them as material icons. Okay, so for that you will have to use this this package called Font Awesome Flutter, and it has a lot of icons that we can use. Okay, let's go to the installing part of it. I'll copy this, I'll go to the pubspec.yaml file, and here under the dependencies I'm going to paste this and then hit save. While that's happening, you can check out the readme file and you can learn how you can use this package. So this is the usage example given here. Instead of passing the icon widget here, we will use the FA icon, and then instead of saying icons dot and some icon name, we are now going to say font or some icons dot whatever icon you want to use, basically. Okay, so that is done. So let's remove this line of code, and this time we are going to say FA icon instead. Okay, and now font awesome icons dot, this is going to be LinkedIn, so let's start typing LinkedIn. Okay, this is exactly what we want, and let's also give this the color. What's the color? This is the color we want. Okay, now we've got the LinkedIn icon here. One more thing, let's give this a margin instead. For the vertical space between these, this time I'm going to give it a margin. Let's see how much space we need. 22 pixels. So I'm going to say edge insets dot only. I'm going to say bottom and 22 pixels here. Let's hit save, and don't forget to add the const keyword here, and then refresh. Okay, now I did the two here, but I'll leave the other two up to you. Okay, you'll use font awesome icons for the other two icons, and then you'll create those two tiles yourself. Okay, so now that this is done, I am going to make a few minor UI tweaks. Here this part doesn't look right, so I'm going to adjust the spacing a little bit, and I'll make this to 1 pixel. Okay, that looks a lot better, and I'll reduce this height, or rather I'll just take this off. Okay, let's do this instead. Okay, that looks a lot better. And now that this is done, what we want is when I click on any of these tiles, I want to be redirected to their respective links. Okay, so let's do LinkedIn first, because that's going to be easier for you to understand. So go to pub.dev, and then search URL launcher. This is what we are going to use for us to be able to click on those tiles and get redirected to their respective links. Okay, so go to installing, copy this part, and you know the drill now, right? Go to pubspec.yaml, paste it under the dependencies, hit save. Okay, and when that is done, let's go to the readme file, read a little bit about how you can use this. Okay, so this is a very small example of how you can use this, and this is basically the part where we are actually using this package. Okay, I'll just copy this part, okay, just to keep it simple for you. Inside of the lib folder, I'll create a new file. This will be called utils.dart, utilities, and now I'm going to paste what I just copied. Okay, and here you see this problem. What you can do to fix this is hit control dot, and then it'll suggest you to import this library, and you'll import it, and that's gone. And this URL, we're not going to do it this way. Let's remove this. So So here in the readme file, what they've done is they've declared a string called URL, and then this is what they're using here. So this is hard coded, but we're not going to use it this way. We are going to take a string argument which is going to be called URL, and this is what we will be using. So basically, whenever I call this function, I'll have to pass the URL which I want the app to redirect to. Basically, the destination URL, I'll pass it when I call this function. So LinkedIn. Okay, so inside of this list tile, when you hover over it, you'll see there's a property called on tap. Okay, so when I tap on it, I want the link to open. So this is the property that we're going to use, on tap, and this takes a function. And here, okay, let's take the const back. Here I'll call the launch URL function. Launch URL. Remove this underscore because we're not keeping it private. Okay, this is the function that we want, and inside of the URL I am going to give it the link to my LinkedIn profile. Okay, and I'll press semicolon. Okay, now let's try and click on LinkedIn. Okay, we're getting some errors here. Okay, so this was giving me some errors. So I just cold restarted this app and the errors are gone. So now when I click on this tile, LinkedIn tile, it actually takes me to my profile. Okay, that's my profile, and I'll show one more of this. Okay, I'll implement it for the email part because that might be a little tricky for you. I'll copy this part here, and okay, actually I'm going to copy this for, and the other two, those will again be assignments for you. Let's take the const away and add the const here and here. Inside of this URL, what you're going to say this time is mail to, and then a colon, and then you can pass your email, the email that you want. So let's say alia@email.com. okay, let's save it, reload. Okay, so now when I click on the email tile, it will actually take me to Gmail, and here in the to section you'll see this two here. Okay, so this was a little bit tricky. Okay, let's go back to the app, and for these two tiles, Twitter and GitHub, I'll leave it up to you. You'll add those links to Twitter and GitHub yourself. Okay, so when you've done that, when you click on any of these, all of these tiles should be working. Now I've clicked on the Twitter, so it will take me to my Twitter profile. Okay, let's go back to the app, and when I click on GitHub, it will take me to my GitHub. Okay, perfect. Alright, so this brings us to the end of this week's content, and this week you learned about how you can build basic layouts with rows and columns. You learned about circle avatar, you learned about list style widget, you learned about icons, you learned about font awesome icons, and you also learned about URL launcher. Okay, I hope it was full of learnings for you, and we'll see you in the next week. Thank you.